Hey, it's good to be together again. We're going to start our new Bible study on the paradox of happiness. So, the paradox of happiness, finding true joy in a world of counterfeits. So, remember we was talking about our joy being fulfilled in First John, and now we're looking to find true joy in a world of counterfeits. This book was written by Rene Bruel in 2013. I just want to emphasize that the lecture series is not original. It's not with me, but we're going to be just basically looking at the book and making comments and looking at how this book can help us as believers look at life in its proper way. So we look at the introduction. We will examine Jesus' difficult teaching on the call to happiness. Okay? The fundamental Christian reflection on happiness appears in some of Jesus' most avoided words or verses that we tend not to look at, right? They're words that shine with truth and show what true Christian life is, but sometimes we we just don't read it carefully, or when we do, we don't think that's really speaking to me or to you. And so we're going to be looking at this closely. Mark chapter 8, verses 34 and 35 shows one of Jesus' biggest and most surprising teaches. In just two sentences, okay, Jesus talks about the way to live that is so unexpected. It's going to be unexpected and different from what we usually think, that we must read it again and again. Did Jesus really mean this? Is this verse serious? Is this really what Jesus wants us to do? So Mark 8:34 and 35, and when he had called the people unto him with his disciples also. So the crowd and his disciples, and he mentions them particularly, also his disciples. So the crowd and his disciples. He said unto them, whosoever will come after me, that is, whoever wants to be my disciple, whoever wants to follow me, whoever believes in Jesus Christ, that's the one who comes after me. Let him, 1, deny himself, 2, take up his cross and follow me. So what Jesus was saying here, whoever wants to come follow him has to do two things before. They have to deny themselves and take up their cross. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life for my sake, okay, for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of Jesus Christ and the gospel, okay. So we're losing our life, we're giving it to God for his sake and for the sake of the gospel. The same shall save it. Save what? Save our life. Okay. So to save our life, we have to lose it. All right, so to deny ourselves, that means not being self-centered, right? It's dying to self. To take up your cross has the idea of dying. Right? When I talk about somebody taking up their cross, that means that they're carrying the part that your arms get nailed to over your shoulder, heading towards crucifixion. And so you're taking up your cross as you deny yourself, you die to self, and you are following him. In this important passage, Jesus teaches us that it is by losing and giving that we have life. And this life, as we're going to see, will bring happiness. Happiness, happiness. Okay? So this life, the losing and the giving, will bring true happiness. And that's where we're headed, all right? If we live as Jesus invites us to, as our own Christian hearts long for, we will be extremely happy. Now, when we think about that, we say, no, wait a minute. I'm going to deny myself. I'm going to give up, to die to self. Right? I'm carrying my cross. And I'm going to follow Jesus. And in doing all of that, that is what my heart longs for, and I will be extremely happy. And of course, to do this, we have to change the way that we think. But it will happen as a great paradox, for we receive life by losing it. And that's the main paradox. We receive life by losing it. And the best example of this picture is Jesus Christ. He came to reign, but to reign he had to die. He came to make a kingdom, but for that kingdom to exist, he had to die. He had to die, be buried, and raise again so that he could defeat death, so that he could defeat sin, and so that he could defeat Satan, so that you and I would be free. So, we get by giving. We find joy when we stop worrying about it. And we stop worrying. We give. We stop worrying about joy or being happy. I'm not happy. This isn't working. So we get the life that we're meant to have by giving. By stop worrying about the happiness of this earth. We flourish when we help people around us. Okay? So we take our eyes off of ourselves and start helping one another. The first part of this study, the drama of modern happiness, looks carefully at our current models of happiness. Okay, so the first part, it's going to be 3 parts. First part is going to be the drama of modern happiness. We want to look at what the world teaches us and the example it sets for us of what modern happiness looks like and what we are searching for. Happiness has come to be equated with pleasure, separated from the ethical path of life. Ethical is morals, right? Separated from the morals of this life and wrapped in pretty items for consumption. We want pleasure. We don't want to worry about the morals, the ethical way to live, and we want to consume. Okay? And when we start to think about that, even good things in this life, we'll be happy when we finally fix our house. We'll be happy when we have a better mode of transportation. We'll be happy when this pain goes away. We'll be happy when I finally finish my exams, or I'll be happy when I finally take my board and pass it. That will give me pleasure. That will give me happiness. And in the end, we find out that those things don't. So our quest for happiness now follows commercial, skeptical, even imaginary paths. But these paths reveal the fundamental self-centered orientation of our lives. This should be the life of the unbeliever, one that's self-centered and oriented. But if we would stop and look at all of our lives, when we're looking for happiness, it comes back down to being self-centered, oriented in our lives, and the inward, selfish nature of our souls. So we're saying there's got to be a radical change because of this amazing paradox. Yet this quest is not what we were created to pursue. And this is what's so important. when we look at what the world teaches, we say, yeah, that would make me happy. But we aren't created to be made happy by that. And if you look at unbelievers who have all of this, they're never happy. They're always searching for more, because that's not where happiness comes. Nor is it the key to true happiness and joy. It's not the key to true happiness and joy. It's not going to work. Part 2. Okay, so this will be our second part. Each section will be divided into chapters. In part 2, we'll explore Jesus' paradox in Mark 8:35. For whoever wants to save their life, you want to save it, you have to lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and the gospel, for me being Christ and the gospel, will save it. That's saving their life. Okay. Now, so it doesn't say if you want to save your life, you have to lose it. That means I take my life, or I put myself in a miserable situation and where everything will go bad. That will make me save my life. I give away all my riches, so life is so difficult. No. It's not talking about that kind of losing. We lose our life for Christ. In other words, what we are doing, we're doing for God and for the sake of the gospel. And so we're seeing souls saved, we're teaching them, we're setting the example for them, and we're showing what real life is all about. When we stop worrying about our well-being and live for things other than ourselves, we'll be surprised by happiness knocking unexpectedly at our door. Okay? So stop worrying about ourselves and our own well-being, and we're going to be surprised. Something is going to change. Happiness follows a selfless attitude that gives of itself. Okay? Selfless attitude, it gives of itself instead of being centered on self. Oh, it's so easy to be self-centered, even in areas where we sometimes don't realize we're being self-centered. So, we once again see the paradox. We find happiness when we stop searching for it. We achieve when we give up. So we find when we stop looking. We achieve when we give up. We find when we stop searching, and we find when we look elsewhere. Of course, this will be for Christ and the gospel. That's where happiness. So we're going to look elsewhere. We're not going to be looking where the world tells us, where we've been deceived. We're going to look somewhere else. And then part 3. The rhythm of the liberated life investigates how we come to live Jesus' paradox of happiness. So it's going to tell us how do we become happy? With the great invitation he extends to us in Mark 34 to deny ourselves, take up our cross, and truly follow him. So we're gonna examine the way the world looks at it, then we're gonna examine a little bit about it, and then we're gonna say, how can we become liberated? How do we get this true happiness? More than obtaining anything, what we long for above all else is to give ourselves, to present ourselves to God, to one another. So we give, and we want to be embraced. To give ourselves, meaning we give ourselves to God and to believers. We put ourselves out there. Okay, we give of ourselves, and we want to be embraced. We want to be loved. But that love needs to come from God. We see John 3:16, right? For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth would not perish but have everlasting life. And that truth, and if we live out that truth, that will give us true happiness. We find happiness when we go beyond our own ego and selfishness and obey God. Which is why sometimes we have to say, that individual really doesn't want to obey God. That individual really doesn't want to live with God. So then we have to question, has their life been changed? Has their nature been changed? All right? So in the final analysis, the measure of our satisfaction is the measure not of how much we get, but how much we give. All right? So it's giving. For God so loved the world that he gave. And he sets us our example. And Christ gave all so that you and I might have life. Ready for this? Are we ready for this paradox? Are we wanting to see where we're going to go? I think we know to some degree, do we not? But how is he going to help us change the way that we think? Happy are the people who work for the happiness of others. Not for myself, but for others. Happy are the people who work for the happiness of others. That is our paradox, right? It's that which is difficult to understand. Hebrews 13:20 and 21. We are to be well-pleasing in his sight. And most of you know that passage quite well. Matthew 3:17, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. They might have my joy fulfilled in themselves. Right? So we see the change that needs to take place. Part 1, the drama of modern happiness. Okay, the drama of modern happiness. Chapter 1 is talking about a plastic happiness. Of course, plastic means false here. You know, sometimes somebody gets a facelift and we'll say, oh, their face is like a plastic. It's false. It doesn't look right. Let them just age with life. Don't think about getting all the surgeries done on your face. When you do, everybody sees it. It's plastic, and then they wonder why. You know, we want to be happy, but we want a true happiness, not a false one. So the introduction to this chapter, plastic happiness. In times past, we may have seen advertisements like this one on a billboard, picturing a slim girl in a spring dress. She's smiling, looking upward, surrounded by light and calm. Next to her were the words, happiness is to wear a size small dress. And many of our young people, young ladies, think, yeah, I'd be happy if I could go and wear a couple sizes down, right? So they see happiness there. Why? They see it because that's what's all around us. So no one needs to mention how mistaken that definition is. And it's funny because when this book was written in 2013, he could get away with that. Today we would say that's politically incorrect, right? It's PC language. It's politically, PI, I'm sorry, politically incorrect speaking, right? You don't talk about somebody's weight or make them think they'll be happy if there's less or more. In the United States at this point in time, you can get in trouble. It's just wrong. You just don't do that. But what's the wrong with this definition? We see a number of things. One, it excludes half of humanity because it's only the ladies can go down one size. Two, it hurts the feminine hearts that know they cannot meet that unrealistic standard. And yet, so many people think that they'll be happy if they can just lose weight. Now, that for health reasons, we need to work on that. I'm working on that. It's hard, all right? But that's for health reasons. It's not going to make me happy, right? We all may ask, really? Is that happiness? But there are many, many young people who feel if I do this, I'll be happy. I'll be happy with myself and it'll bring joy. Well, when you reach your goal, you'll be happy, but you'll be happy for 15 minutes or so, and then something else comes that you need. Right? So, as harmless as it might seem, that billboard definition is part of a culture that defines beauty and happiness according to its own commercial logic. Okay? It is trying to sell something, and so it makes its definition by what it can sell. Everyone should and must be happy is heard, or something is wrong. Are you happy today? How are you? How do you feel? Are you feeling good? Are you feeling happy? And so but the problem is, this happy is the definition of the world around us. Okay, it's not talking about how are you feeling with God this morning? Are you spiritually healthy? Are you where you should be? If not, then something is wrong. But if you don't feel the feelings of happiness, that doesn't necessarily mean something is wrong. Okay? Happiness has been made such an unquestionable norm that people worry if they don't feel bliss every day. They become unhappy for not being happy. And that's a paradox. You become unhappy for not being happy. The breeze of enjoyment and happiness becomes a burden and a responsibility. Now, instead of realizing that you don't need to be happy for everything and all about everything, your enjoyment is gone. It's a burden to be happy, and you feel like that's my responsibility. I have to be happy. And so we look at our hunger for happiness. Happiness as duty is one of our current distortions of the ideal of God's happiness for us. It's a deception of Satan. And the economical world, the economy all around us are telling us, you need this, you need that, you'll be happy if you have this, you'll be happy. Well, behind it all is the deception of Satan. Part of that deception is so that people can sell things. But behind this distortion lies a basic human truth. We all want to be happy. If we all want to be happy, if that is a desire, then there must be a kind of happiness that God created us for. All right? But don't be deceived by the world's happiness, because it will never make you happy. We all want to be happy. There's nobody that says, I don't want to be happy. There is a need created for happiness. But the happiness will come, as we will see, is by denying self, taking up our cross, and following Christ. All right? But everybody is looking for this, but everybody is being deceived. Happiness is the word we use to name the basic state we want to achieve in life. That's where we want to be. We wish to be well, to have peace, to be light. We want to be comfortable, filled with pleasure, not pain. I don't think there's anybody here who wants pain. We want meaning and purpose. And here's one of the biggest ones, because true purpose only comes from God. If you're looking for it somewhere else, you'll never receive it. We want to love and be loved, to have our best moments last forever. Oh, I feel so good. I wish this could just stay this way, right? Last forever. Whatever term we use, happiness is the central drive of our lives. and the governing concept of our ambitions, our desires, and our motives. Okay? It's the central drive of our lives. It's the governing concept of our ambitions, what we want, our desires, how we work. So ambitions is the thing that we want. That's my ambition, to be this or that, and I desire this and that, and my motives, why I do what I do, comes back to desires and ambitions. Okay, so without it, we say we can't be happy because we're searching in the wrong place. As Alexander Pope eulogizes, "O happiness, our being's end and aim, good pleasure, ease, content, whatever thine aim, that something still which prompts the eternal sigh, for which we bear to live or dare to die." And so this is very true, and we'll look at that just a minute. Look, "O happiness, our being's end and aim." The speaker's addressing happiness as the ultimate goal and purpose of human existence. If that's true, then it has to have something to do with God, unless we're being deceived. Okay. Good pleasure, ease, content, whatever the name. The speaker lists various words that are associated with happiness. We all want things to be good. We want pleasure. We want life to be easier. We want to be content. We realize here happiness can be described in many ways. But do you notice that in the world's way, God is never mentioned? Okay. Giving is never mentioned. Right? It's gaining. It's a feeling we get from what we can have for ourselves. That's something still which prompts the eternal sigh. Happiness is described as a constant and deep longing or desire, something that people always yearn for. And this is right. Happiness is something we always yearn for. It's a constant and it's a deep longing. The problem is we have defined happiness wrong. Therefore, we have been deceived, and the things we think will make us happy will never make us happy. For which we bear to live or dare to die, people endure life's challenges and even face death in pursuit of happiness, emphasizing how central and powerful the quest is for happiness in our human life. Sometimes you watch on television or you read a book of a mountain climber who goes up to the highest mountain where it's freezing, and there's a chance that they'll die, right? But they do it because of a pursuit of happiness. They think it will bring them happiness and pleasure and joy. And when they get up to the top, yeah, for a while, but it doesn't last. It doesn't last. So then they have to find something else that's even more dangerous. In essence, the poem explores how happiness is both a fundamental and a complex pursuit driving human actions and aspiration. God created us to be happy in the sense that we would be blessed in His presence, before His righteousness and His being able to, like Adam and Eve, walk in the garden with God. That brings happiness. And so this is what we're seeing, okay? The sheer controlling force that the idea of happiness exerts upon our lives can sometimes be surprising, for we tend to focus instead on achieving things we believe will make us happy. And I'll guarantee you, there are no things that will make you happy for a long period of time. We think so much of the career path needed for a professional recognition that often we do not ask if professional recognition will really make us happy at all. We work hard to build a secure financial life, but fail to question the link, if there is one, between financial security and happiness. And I will tell you, there is not. But happiness is what we look for with these pursuits. A wise observer of humanity, such as Sigmund Freud, could not have concluded otherwise. And of course, we don't agree with Sigmund Freud, but this statement is true. What do men show by their behavior to be the purpose and intention of their lives? What do they demand of life and wish to achieve? The answer to this can hardly be in doubt. They strive after happiness. They want to become happy and to remain so. And I will tell you, happiness, as we understand it, is the fundamental human quest. So we're not disagreeing with that. All people want to be happy, okay? We agree with that. The problem is the deception of the world around us is bringing us in the wrong way. And so we come back to our conclusion, Matthew 11:29 and 30. Take my yoke upon you. Learn of me. So we take a yoke. We learn of Christ. For I am meek and lowly in heart. You shall find rest unto your souls. Okay? For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Our happiness comes from God. And as we go through this series, we're going to look more and more about how we need to take our eyes off of the things of this world and put them back on God, giving God center in our life, not being selfish and self-centered. And as we close, let's be thinking about this. What brings us happiness? What brings us happiness? And should our happiness be coming from those things? Rest, relief from trouble, related anxiety. We must realize that our happiness only comes from a true relationship with Christ.